Hello everybody. My name is Alex, and thank you all for joining me tonight at Pairodice Games. We're going to be playing some Modern tonight, and kicking it off with a classic, a little bit of green-red Stompy versus Blue Moon here. These two archetypes have been around forever. Oh, hello. And, welcome, Noble. Hopping into the booth with me. Just looks like we're watching Red-Green Stompy versus Blue Moon for the first round.
Is it like Ponza, or is it like just actually Stompy?
It's probably... Oh, I say collected company, so I'm not certain.
Okay.
Could be anything, really. We'll get a look. We saw Nathan kind of running it up with Blue Moon last week, so it looks like, if I had to guess, Stompy should probably be favored in this type of matchup. Unless the Blood Moon really hoses this deck, but I expect the mana base to be mostly okay. Ooh, looks like, is that an Overgrown Tomb? Looks like we might have a slight black splash here as well, so we'll have to see what that is for. But I'm not certain.
Jund, but with Leonor Elves. Oop, Bolt the Birds.
Yep,
good from
pretty
Time
classic.
Immemorial.
So take 2 off of Steam Vents, send it back over to Chris.
I think that this guy is on Green-Black Elves.
No land drop from Chris. Keeps the one lander with the elf. Gets punished by the lightning bolt. Nathan, remembering back to his mentor, telling him to bolt the bird, and getting paid off here immediately. Yeah, pretty absurd.
This is why we bolt the bird. These decks that play mana dorks often have really fragile mana bases. They play like 20 lands.
Yeah, if this is elves, which I actually do believe you're right. I know Chris, I believe, does play elves. Definitely elves. These decks play like 15 lands because they play so many dorks. And, you know, Chris at least drew a playable spell here, but once again, basically no good. He's going to need to find mana, and he's going to need to have an explosive turn soon to be able to compete with this thing in the ice that's going to flip very shortly.
We got some news from the floor here. Apparently there are Bloodbraid Elves in this sideboard.
That makes sense a little bit.
Cards and Elf, for sure.
Cards and Elf, for sure. I don't know. It helps you grind. I don't know.
Especially if you're playing like Clan Callers, then like the beatdown plan's a little better.
Yeah, so it looks like
doing the Azuri combo thing.
Yeah. Looks like end of turn. We get an opt from Nathan. That'll tick down the thing in the ice. Here's a Flooded Strand that will be sacrificed. We'll see what Nathan wants to go and find. No basic lands in play for Chris. Means that Blood Moon actually looks pretty good here, too.
Yeah.
Gonna force him to draw exactly Forest, although I don't expect that to be a normal occurrence, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that post-board, Nathan's going to try and get these Blood Moons out of his deck as quickly as possible.
Yeah, if Leonor Elves was in play right here, like this Blood Moon would do next to nothing. Right?
Yeah, I'm not actually certain that he has a Blood Moon. Actually, looking at his hand, don't think he does, but, you know, just worth keeping a note on. So, here is Snapcaster Mage. It will Lightning Bolt Nettle Sentinel. I believe this is main phase. Is this 2012? Lol. Yes. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you all for tuning in. We've got a Woken Horror. Gonna bring down the slaps.
Yeah, some pretty good synergy there with that Snapcaster Mage flashing back that lightning bolt, removing the last counter,
pick it right back
picking
up.
that Snapcaster Mage up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
gonna get to do it again.
Oh yeah, poor elf. So he's got the Overgrown Tomb. If Nathan plays Blood Moon here, I'm gonna call that a perfect victory with the one mountain out of the deck that can't really do anything with it. But regardless, that's good enough.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that the Elves player's best draws probably wouldn't have done pretty well against that one, and that was far from the Elves player's best draws.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Well, let's see if Chris came prepared. Let's take a look at the sideboard. Starts out with the 4 choke. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
4 choke, 2 Bloodbraid Elf, 2 Reclamation Sage, 2 Gaia's Blessing, 2 Yavimaya Druid, and 2 Nihil Spellbomb. Anything besides the obvious slam dunk choke. This guy's done his losing to Blue Moon. He's over it. His friend plays Blue Moon.
Gaia's Blessing? What does Gaia's Blessing do?
Gaia's Blessing is 1 and a green. It is from Dominaria, but I believe it's a reprint in Dominaria, and it is shuffle up to 3 cards from your graveyard into your library. If Gaia's Blessing goes to your graveyard, shuffle it into your deck.
And then doesn't it do something when you mill it? Oh, no,
yeah,
when you mill it shuffles
back.
itself, yeah. That's a really bizarre card to have in your sideboard, but with a a meta like this, there are not a ton of people here tonight. You kind of know what. I mean, 4-choke looks pretty good when you know one of your opponents is going to be on Blue Moon every tournament.
All right, well, meanwhile, let's take a look at Nathan. Nathan's got 2 Young Pyromancer, 2 Abrade, 2 Magmatic Sinkhole, 2 Anger of the Gods, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Surgical Extraction, 1 Disdainful Stroke, 1 Dispel, and 1 Mystical Dispute. What sounds good here?
Ooh, Anger of the Gods is an absolute beating.
Oh, yeah.
Wipes the board of all those little elves, even if the board has gone a little big with lords. Usually it'll kill the first lord, which will just send a cascade down of all the lords dying. Anyone who's played the card Master Girl knows how it works. Once you kill the biggest one,
everything dies.
Everything dies.
Everything dies.
Disdainful, Destroke, and Dispel are going to have some targets in Chris's deck, but I think those cards are both too narrow to bring in. Yeah. Getting like Court of Calling.
I think Dispel's a little more interesting than Disdainful Stroke to me.
For sure.
But I think leaving those on the board wouldn't fault it. I also don't hate the Abrades, and just a little bit of extra spot removal seems pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Young Pyromancer, worth considering, but probably ultimately a little bit too slow, and Thing in the Ice is really going to be the main plan here for Nathan to try and stabilize. And we talked about getting those like Blood Moons out of your deck, so maybe Nathan has enough duds that we'll see quite a few of these sideboard cards come in that aren't super excellent, but probably a little bit better than anything else. So let's see what these players' opening 7s look like for game number 2.
Are you ready for one of the most bizarre cards in this format?
Yeah.
Dryad. It's up on the screen here.
Yeah, it's a reader. I have a feeling that this card stayed in the sideboard.
Yeah, but
it doesn't seem good to me.
Yeah, for those
in this matchup.
For those who can't read it, when Yavimaya Dryad enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a forest card and put it onto the battlefield tapped under target player's control. So you can use that to ramp yourself or turn on Yavimaya Dryad's own Forest Walk.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
With this card in the sideboard, I would venture that he has Elvish Champion in his deck and is looking to give all of his elves Forest Walk.
Yeah, that tracks.
And be able to swing through like creature
Big
mirrors.
creatures, yeah. That makes sense. That seems pretty cute. I like that. All right, well, looks like we have Basic Forest here from Chris, so going to be out of range of any of that Blood Moon garbage. There's Anger of the Gods off the top. We talked about that one in the sideboard. Nathan also has a Brazen Borrower, and I didn't quite get a good look at the other cards. Overgrown Tomb will come into play untapped on Chris's second turn of the game. 3 mana here. That is a Steel Leaf Champion, I believe.
Oh, okay. So we're
on the Beats plan. Yeah, we're on the Beats plan here. Right. That's a hard card for Blue Moon to beat. Yeah, this thing's huge.
Yeah, and if we didn't see those like magmatic sinkholes getting boarded in, we might catch Nathan with only removal spells that deal 3 damage.
Even if he did bring it in, it's turn 2. Like, he's got 1 card in his graveyard. How's he going to deal with this? Like, nobody plays Lava Coil in Modern or anything like that, so...
And you can't even bolt it and then block it with a Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, because it can't be blocked by the Snap. This is a hard one to beat. Hello, Blonde and Bougie. Thank you for tuning in. Here's the Thing in the Ice, though. Thing in the Ice, definitely the best card in Nathan's deck in this matchup, I believe. Maybe Anger of the Gods has something to say about that in a post-board game, but I don't know. I still might take a Thing in the Ice over it. At least Thing in the Ice wins you the game, too.
It's true.
All right, here's a Nettle Sentinel from Chris, followed up by Heritage Druid. Heritage Druid makes 3 mana, and now we get to see this Elves player really go off. Oh, another Steel Leaf Champion. Yeah. Oh, Nathan's so dead.
Looks like Chris managed to... He forgot to untap his Nettle Sentinel there, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter all that much.
It's got Summoning Sickness, whatever.
So how might this Elves deck look different than the Elves decks that we traditionally see when we're seeing the inclusion of something like Steel Leaf Champion?
So it's probably going to be a lot less combo-centric. I'm expecting the, Devoted Druid package to be absent here, sure. And probably the Leyline of Abundances are also going to be absent. Chris is definitely taking more of an aggressive role and just utilizing elf synergies to be a beatdown, as opposed to what I would consider an elf combo deck, which I think is the more traditional build.
With Azuri and trying to create
a board. I would expect to still see Azuri.
Yeah.
But I do think that perhaps we are going to be missing a lot of those aggressive ramp creatures that are really known for making the infinite manas of this elf deck. So
we see Brazen Borrower cast from Nathan here.
Yeah, returned a Steel Leaf Champion.
Yep.
In combat. And then Chris just goes ahead and redeploys that Steel Leaf Champion post-combat. Nathan's really pressured here to try to flip this Thing in the Ice this turn, because he can't really survive another turn of this type of ridiculousness going on. I mean, he's dead on board currently to Steel Leaf Champions, so he's going to have some type of answer here.
Yep.
Here's Unclaimed Territory, naming Elf, I'm sure. So I think if I'm Chris, I'm just going to go ahead and attack here. I don't want to spend my mana before combat just to end up having less mana post-combat. And, you know, I am worried about Nathan flipping this Thing in the Ice here, but it looks like he's just going to cast Cryptic Command at the beginning of combat. Tap Chris's team, draw some cards. So this is the other outcome where we would have preferred to play like a spell before combat because we could have gotten some mana out of our elves, but here we are.
I mean, then we would have gotten counter tapped, right?
Yeah, I mean, but what are you going to do? You know, tap counter an Elvish Mystic? No, like, you're probably just going to draw a card anyway, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
Unfortunately, it looks like Chris probably doesn't have another elf. Otherwise, we probably would have seen him deploy that as well.
So
and just try and get huge on the board and force Nathan to flip on this coming turn.
We have this, looks like a Royal Scion.
Royal Scions.
Is that a Young Pyromancer?
It is, yep.
Yep, this Thing in the Ice has 2 counters now.
Royal Scions, that's got to be good news for Chris.
Yeah, it's not flipping this Thing in the Ice, and that's the game.
Yep, Thing in the Ice cannot flip. Nathan does not have the requisite spells, and game 2 goes to Chris, and we are cruising through this matchup here. Take a re-look at that sideboard. So we got a little feel for what happened here. Chris, no chokes in sight this time, but can you imagine just like turn 2 choke on the play?
Oh yeah,
go home. What are you doing here, kid? Yeah, get out.
All your lands are islands because you want them to function through a blood moon.
Yeah, ugh.
Never gonna do
You've
well.
got like one basic mountain in your deck, maybe.
Does Chris have any ways in his deck to remove that?
Nathan, you mean the choke?
Sorry, I got a little confused.
He has a Brazen Borrower. So we saw at least that Petty Theft can remove choke for at least some time, and then hopefully counter it on the way back down. But not in the sideboard, no.
It's not like Winter Orb. Those lands stay tapped forever.
Forever,
right?
yeah. I mean, you just need to play 2 untapped islands and cast Petty Theft the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you do. Okay. Well, so that sideboard game didn't really revive around 8 hate cards. It just looked like that elf deck did a little more of what it was supposed to do.
Just played its spells, and I mean, we talked about Nathan, potentially struggling to deal with that Steel Leaf Champion, and yeah, he just died to it, you know? Like, this Blue Moon deck is not well equipped for turn 2 5/4s.
Yup.
Just not at all.
Yeah. And I felt like that was really a strength of this build of elves in this matchup, is that a lot of 1/1s are just going to die to Anger of the Gods and Lightning Bolts, but 5/4s are a whole different ball game.
Yeah, feels like Chris is pretty ready for Blue Moon here.
Oh yeah,
he's got his elf deck tuned for the Blue Moon matchup. 4 chokes.
Oh yeah.
Steel Leaf Champions. He's got the works. All right, but he will be on the draw in game number 3 here, the Decider.
Let's see if we can get maybe one that lasts more than a few turns.
Unlikely. I believe we are going to see a nice quick game, and let's see. It looks like 1 land, a 9-hill Spellbomb, Bloodbraid Elf.
That's not. Those are not some spells you want to see with 1 land.
Is that a Finale of Devastation in Chris's hand as well?
It looked like it.
I think so.
It's a little bit of a.
That's a greedy. That's pretty greedy. I don't know about that one. If we're trying to play not combo elves, I don't really know what got cut here. You know. Alright, well, looks like turn 1, land Elvish Mystic. Both players keeping their 7-card hand here. Nathan will go to 19 on the end of his first turn, finds a Steam Vents tapped.
No Bolt is pretty good for Chris here. I think unless Nathan doesn't have a 2-drop, he probably would have shocked for a Bolt there.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have if he had one. So we'll see. what Nathan's got to follow up. He also probably would not have kept his hand if he didn't have any interaction on turn 1 or 2, so expect to see something good here on turn 2, and I think I see a thing in the ice in his hand as well, so can't play it fast enough. On tap, windmill slam it, go.
Nice new, apparently new foil steam vents that he picked up today.
Fancy.
Pimping out the deck.
To be honest, I not a fan of expeditions. But that's just because I don't know what they are on camera because they're so hard to see. Thankfully, Expedition Steam Vents actually gets my approval. That's one of the ones that is obvious. But man, if you put Godless Shrine and Overgrown Tomb in the same deck, it's the Expeditions. Yeah, we're done here. Yep. Can't tell. Don't even get me started on the Kaladesh Inventions. It's impossible. The amount of times I've had to leave the booth, go ask production what the heck's going on, just for them to tell me, oh, that's the Ensnaring Bridge. Every time. Yep. Unbelievable.
So we're getting, is that an opt here?
This is Serum Visions. Yes.
Taking a counter off this thing in the ice. It looks like Chris found another land.
Yeah, turn 2 Steel Leaf Champion once again on Chris's side.
Maybe it makes me think that we might have missed one of those lands in his hand, and he just kept the 1-drop into 3-drop.
I did see him rip Forest off the top.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean he doesn't have like an Overgrown Tomb or something. I think he might have had an extra land that I just that I missed, but it was at least one land, obviously, and could be more. Top card here, that's Collected Company.
Alright, that would be really good if there's a third land here.
Yeah, it looks like Overgrown Tomb pulled to the front there. Indeed it is. He'll go to 18. We'll see what he wants to do here. I wouldn't hate just main phase Coco and just hope your opponent can't flip and hope to untap and have a very, very good turn next turn, but it still feels slow. It's pretty hopeful to assume your opponent can't flip in 2 turns, but yeah, that's looks like what Chris is going to do. Let's see if we find anything here.
See, I don't know how much I like that because we have these thing in the ices like ticking down, and if they flip next turn, it's an absolute disaster to this Collected Company because you spent your 4 mana to essentially just like put a couple creatures from your deck into your hand. Only hitting. Did he only hit a Steel Age Champion? No, I think he's deciding on what the second card is going to be.
Seems likely.
Yeah, but going back to what I was saying,
he did only hit Steel Leaf Champion. Yuck.
An end-stepped Coco plays pretty well around a thing in the ice flip because you can float your mana, have your 2 creatures get bounced, and then hopefully deploy 2 more.
Yeah. All right. Well, we do have 2 5/4s in play, and Thing in the Ice can't block them. So once again, we're in a similar position where Nathan is going to need to deal with this. Here comes Heritage Druid pre-combat. We'll see if Nathan has any answers to that. You see a Jace the Mind Sculptor in his hand that he chose not to deploy. Looks like Heritage Druid is A-OK. Nihil Spellbomb. See if that's enough to get Nathan to pull the trigger on anything. It looks like it will be. So here comes Cryptic Command. Tap your team, draw a card on the beginning of combat, So the Nihil Spellbomb did resolve.
Now we're looking at that, I think that Thing in the Ice has
2 and 3.
2 and 3 counters respectively.
I do believe.
Nathan's had a lot of chances to draw some cards, so I wouldn't be surprised if there were 2 instants here.
Yeah, me neither. Remand in hand. So we'll see if Chris is going to play into a potential like remand opt by playing a spell pre-combat. Looks like he is, but Llanowar Elf just going to go ahead and resolve. Ooh, nope.
Counter draw.
Another Cryptic Command. I believe this is just pre-combat.
That's right.
Yeah, beginning of combat, tap draw. So down to 1 and 2 counters now on the Thing in the Ices.
Yeah, so this series of Cryptic Commands with these Thing in the Ices has served a time walk.
Yeah. Oh, twice. Yikes. And now we have Mystic Sanctuary, but it looks like that's going to be enough to get Chris to pop the Nihil Spellbomb. So Mystic Sanctuary will not be able to return Cryptic Command to the top of the deck. And that is a loop, by the way. Chris or Nathan will be able to effectively cast Cryptic Command every turn for the rest of the game, assuming that goes uninterrupted. So pretty important piece of interaction there. Main phase Archmage's Charm to flip. Yep. Interesting. What do you think about this?
I think this is... Yeah, I don't know if I would play it main phase, but getting those guys out of there and getting a clock down, right? We're getting hitting Chris for 7 down to 13, and then next turn, if neither of those Thing in Ice gets removed, and he can play any spell just to flip them and hit for lethal through almost anything Chris could have.
Yeah.
Kind of like it.
Yeah, the more you talked about it, the more I'm in on this. This is 21 points of damage, and Chris shouldn't be able to block it, assuming that Nathan doesn't play a spell. on Chris's turn. Like, just, yes, resolves. We have a remand in case we have to counter something, but I don't think that we're going to get there. Just play whatever you want. We're going to untap, play any spell, flip an attack for 14.
Well, here's a choke off these 3 elves.
Oh, that one.
I don't know about that, actually.
I don't think you were supposed to do that.
Well, no, because he doesn't have a land drop.
Oh,
and it
yeah,
flips
that
now,
still
so he's not
does
gonna get a
it.
chance
Yeah, that's
to-
still plenty good. Yeah, it's
Get a
still going to
chance
do
to
the
play.
trick. So it's still going to return all the creatures, and that will do it. We'll see Nathan taking down Chris in a nice 3-game battle. Man,
Thing in the Ice looked really good that match.
Thing in the Ice looks really good against creature decks. It's pretty absurd how good Thing in the Ice is at just stopping everything you're doing. And it's really absurd how different the looks of Blue Moon are when they do and do not draw that card.
Very true.
I feel like Thing in the Ice is the best card in Blue Moon nowadays. And I think it took a long time for people to recognize that. I remember my friend talking about how sick Thing in the Ice was when that card came out. And he wanted to play, like, Jeskai control or, like, basically Blue Moon in Modern with Thing in the Ices.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody kind of laughed at him.
Yeah.
And it took until about 3 years later for Thing in the Ice and Bedlam Reveler to catch on. And I was like, man, my friend was doing this 3 years ago.
Yeah.
He had it. He nailed it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember, like, Jeskai Nahiri winning the GP at that time or whatever, Pretty sick.
I think the advent actually the printing of Arclight Phoenix is actually what made people look at that card again and kind of realize that there have been a lot of cheap spells that have been printed recently that really let that card go off. And a lot of the times it felt like that Arclight Phoenix decks before the ban of Faithless Looting was just a Thing in the Ice deck that sometimes put 3/2 flyers in play.
I played a reasonable amount of that Phoenix deck, and, like, I remember going on record being like, Arclight Phoenix is the worst threat in your deck by a lot. Your best threat is Thing in the Ice, followed shortly by Aria of Flame
Yep.
after that card got printed. And then there's, like, a pretty big gap, and then there's Arclight Phoenix, and that's just a thing that you do sometimes. And it is your best plan in some matchups, most notably Jund, because Jund was also quite good at the time. It just got Ren and 6, and people were really high on that. And this was while Hogak existed, but, Hogak was kind of riding the wave of, it's broken, something gets banned, people forget about it, it's broken again, It was kind of right in that lull there right after it got banned. So, anyway, pretty interesting. Thing in the Ice, really cool card, personal favorite of mine.
Oh, yeah. Love that card.
All right.
I'm excited to play with it in Pioneer and some of these Phoenix decks.
Yeah,
the
nothing.
Pairodice.
We can talk a little bit about these Pioneer bands. So,
I think we
Pioneer
have,
today, we've got a Oath of Nissa band, Felidar Guardian band, and Leyline of Abundance band.
yes.
So, I'll confess I haven't played the most Pioneer, but you've been keeping up a little more than me. What are your thoughts on these bands?
So it's pretty clear, said by the WotC in the announcement. There were 2 decks that they were a little worried about. 4-color Saheeli, because it made people interact by turn often by turn 3 or 4. Sometimes with Teferi backup, depending if they sequenced it a little differently so that they could protect their combo. Really consistent at going off with both Oath of Nissa to find and fix the mana for these 4 colors of Planeswalkers, and be blinked by Felidar Guardian to continually generate card advantage.
Very, very powerful.
So we saw the Felidar Guardian ban first off to shut down that deck. And the Leyline of Abundance ban turned out to be really, really good with Nykthos, because it's 2 free devotion and makes all the mana dorks you already want to be
It
playing.
was absurd. People were casting, like, turn 3 Ulamog.
Yeah, turn 2 Nissa really consistently.
Turn 2 Nissa, the War of the Spark Nissa.
Yep.
Turn 3 Ulamog was something that I watched happen a couple times and thought to myself,
This
that's
probably needs to
unreasonable.
stop.
Yep,
probably
that's
needs to
completely
stop.
unreasonable.
Everyone was talking
feels
about
like the
how-
best cube drive I've ever seen.
Yeah. Everyone was talking about how busted the Marvel deck would be, and then it turned out just playing ramp creatures could get you there a turn faster, which is pretty obscene.
Pretty crazy.
And then the Oath of Nissa was actually a part of that deck, too. It was Devotion for Nissa. It was a cantrip that found both.
Very, very good.
It found Nykthos because it finds lands. It also found Burning Tree Emissaries for your busted Nykthos
Also found
starts.
payoffs.
And it found Nissa, Ulamog, anything that
Walking
you could want.
Ballista.
Walking
Yeah,
Ballista.
Walking Ballista, another pretty relevant payoff at the later game for that deck when you have, 15 or whatever mana, you just play a huge Walking Ballista, and most decks can't beat that. We kind of learned that one in Modern with Tron as well when Walking Ballista got printed. The card kind of took over in Tron as well, and people were playing just 4 Walking Ballista in their Tron deck for quite a while. And eventually that kind of has phased out now, but only with the printing of more absurd cards.
Yeah.
People are down to like 2 or whatever Walking Ballistas, and some even are down to 0 if you're playing a Karn package, but you just go find it in the board or whatever. But regardless.
So these bans were super targeted. Leyline of Abundance and Oath of Nissa were both in the Green Devotion deck, and Oath of Nissa and Felidar Guardian were both in the 4-color Saheeli deck that had both been doing very well. I expect to see more targeted bans in the future. I think now that these really busted starts have dropped off a little bit, I'm a little worried about combo decks like Kethis and combo decks like...
Notably, I do think Oath of Nissa was also, I believe, the best card in Kethis.
I don't know if I would go that far, but it is certainly quite good. Once Upon a Time fills that slot at least a little bit. It finds your Diligent Excavators, your Kethises, and your lands to cast them.
Yeah, but that wasn't the important part. Kethis was the deck that used all of the text on Oath of Nissa the best. It's fair. Legendary, super relevant. It makes it so that when you're going off with Kethis, it turned it from like, if I have Diligent Excavator Kethis, to being like, oftentimes in Standard, you'd usually have a like setup turn where you'd mill like 6 or 8 or whatever, and then you'd need to untap and really go off, and that just never happened in Pioneer. It was like if you played your Oath of Nissa, Diligent Excavator, Kethis, boom, your whole deck was in your graveyard every time. And Oath of Nissa was a huge part of that because it let you play all of your blue creatures or all of your blue planeswalkers and all of your blue legends with your Mox Amber without having to have
a blue legend
in play. You could just
still play your WinCon in
Jace or whatever without having to do that. And that was usually a pretty big hang-up for the deck, so pretty relevant.
Oath of Nissa is interesting because a lot of people see it a lot like... we're talking about it in the context of like, oh yeah, Green Ponder is too good. But I think really the problem with that card is it was a lot closer to Astrolabe in my mind. It fixes your mana, It provides card selection, and then it is a permanent that has some really relevant types, doing the kind of stuff that you see Astrolabe get abused and then banned for in Pauper. In Pauper, because it's a permanent. You can blink it, you can bounce it. It counts towards like your number of enchantments, your legendary permanents in play.
Yeah, the legend... the devotion, the legendary text on it, ended up being probably 2 of the biggest reasons why it got banned. Just the text that it just happens to randomly, for what it feels like randomly have, ended up being 2 of its biggest strengths,
Adventurous Impulse is not a card that's too good for this format.
Definitely not, But Oath of Nissa turned out to be way too good.
Yeah. So you can play those Pioneer decks and these newly unbanned cards in the Pioneer 1K. Here at Pairodice Games.
Ooh, nailed it.
Yep, on
December 14th.
December 14th.
Yes, December 14th. It is on Saturday. It will be streamed. I am planning on being in the booth. Also, Friday Night Magic on the 2 weeks prior to this tournament, I believe is what's slated currently, but could be updated. Those are the 15th and 22nd, will be Pioneer. So if you are looking to play Pioneer in the Pacific Northwest Seattle area, Pairodice Games in Bellingham, Washington is the place to go. And while we're mentioning that, I would like to point out that here at Pairodice Games, we play Magic basically every night of the week. I come in and stream every Monday and Friday. That is Modern on Mondays, and Friday for Standard, and maybe some Pioneer mixed in. But I will be streaming those events. Those events, if you're watching them live right now, thank you so much for watching them live. And if you've missed anything, you can go and check them out on our YouTube channel. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, make sure to come and check us out live. We are live on twitch.tv/pairodice_games at 6:30 p.m. every Monday and Friday. So thanks, guys, so much for checking it out. Hi, Nubtub the God. I love you, too. So we got those a little bit out of the way. With that, I'd love to talk about all of the testing we've been doing for Mythic Championship Richmond, which we are leaving for tomorrow. Tomorrow.
I'm
and we feel a little flooded, a little overwhelmed, to be honest.
My name is Noble, local player who qualified playing Modern and now been playing Standard in what a lot of people consider a little bit of a lame duck Standard format because of
Oko, mostly.
Basically Oko
existing. Going on everybody's lips.
And trying to figure out what to play, what the best Oko decks to play, what beats those. I've been having a lot of fun with this Jund Corvold deck. that goes over the top of Oko pretty handily. But sometimes you lose because all your creatures end up being elks instead of the things you want them to be.
Yeah, and it really feels like the deck just... Every deck struggles to beat Nissa.
Yep.
Is kind of the thing that I keep coming back to.
Is this double threat of they're sometimes going to nut draw you and play an Oko on turn 2 or a Nissa on turn 3.
The decks that are trying to target these food decks oftentimes are built with the mindset of, I don't care about Noxious Grasp because that's a card that people have been main decking for the mirror, and B, I don't care about Oko.
Because my creatures
are small and dorky.
Cheap, do something when they enter the battlefield.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm sacrificing them. You know,
whatever. And it feels like both of those things can be relatively easily achieved. Team Reclamation does it really well. These like black-red sacrifice decks, or this Jund sacrifice deck does it really well. Blue-white Control, another
really
deck that does it really well. And those are all fine, but it feels like every deck just struggles to beat Nissa. And, you can try and go over the top, but that always involves your own Nissa. And then if you're trying to go over the top and they have a Nissa and you don't, then they're just going to go over the top at you,
Yeah.
And so it feels like, going into a Mythic Championship, everybody's got their sights set on Sultai, and... maybe everybody else is in a similar boat where they're just like, I keep trying to beat food and I just keep losing Nissa.
And to top it all off, you get some of the best interaction in the format because you get to play Noxious Grasp, you get to play Aether Gust, both of which have tons of target in this format because everyone's playing green, white, or blue. And you also, red, green, or white. And on top of that, they have Veil of Summer for your decks that are really trying to go over the top of them with stuff like spells and counterspells, like Simic Flash, Blue-White Control, and Temur Rec get absolutely destroyed by Explosion, Veil of Summer, untap, kill you.
Yeah, it's rough. It's really rough, man.
Yeah.
And all the ways you're trying, because
it's kind of
all of the color hose cards, it just happened to line up so well in Sultai, because if you're just trying to play, you're trying to beat Noxious Grasp, right? So we're not playing green or white, right? Well, great. Well, then we're playing into Aether Gust and Veil of Summer, the sideboard cards, because that covers the other 3 colors. That hits, red, blue, black. Right? Boom, we got the full color pie. Like, no matter what I'm sideboarding, I get my color hate cards against you.
Yeah.
Because we get all of those cards on Sultai. And it's pretty absurd. So... with that, it looks like our other match just ended, so we're going to leave you guys with a very short break. Should be somewhere in around 1 minute or so. So I would like to give a shout out to the first sponsor for tonight's stream. Die Hard Dice is a metal dice company. They make the best dice in the business. If you play any type of tabletop RPGs, I'm talking Dungeons and Dragons and others, but to be honest, I don't really know many others off the top of my head.
Pathfinder,
D&D's the big
Warhammer
one.
Fantasy,
Yeah.
Call of Cthulhu.
That's where I was going. Yeah. Or you mentioned Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 40K. These are the best dice in the business for those types of games. Everybody likes to swag out, have the coolest things for your character. They feel great to roll. They make excellent dice trays for those big war games. So thank you so much to Die Hard Dice. If you're looking to get your hands on a set of dice, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, we have them in stock. And if not, you can go ahead and head to www.dieharddice.com. Let them know we sent you. Helps us out a lot. Thank you so much to Die Hard Dice for supporting the stream. And with that, we're going to leave you with some capacity. We'll be back really soon. Don't go anywhere. Hello everybody, welcome back. Thank you for not going anywhere. We have round number 2. This is Blue Moon versus Bant Soul Herder. Nathan back on camera after his victory in the last round. So let's take some initial thoughts on this match. What are you thinking looking at these two decks?
So Bant Soul Herder is a deck that I don't know if I want to say historically because it hasn't been around that long, but really as its gameplay plays out, it flickers some value creatures, draws a bunch of cards, starts accumulating a large Soul Herder. It's a game that really wants to go long, wants to grind a bunch of value out of these ETB effects of its creatures, and plays a lot of dorks that are cantripping, drawing cards, and can attack, and eventually finish out the game that way, which is inherently just pretty good against a strategy that's looking to 1-for-1 you, play lightning bolts, stuff like that. However, Blue Moon does have a couple trumps in this matchup. Bant is a 3-color deck, and usually they're not playing Astrolabe, so Blood Moon can definitely hurt Bryant here. But
Bryant
I wouldn't.
is playing Astrolabe.
Bryant is playing Astrolabe. Okay, that makes Blood Moon a lot worse. And then also Thing in the Ice, as we saw last match, great against creature decks, and could potentially set Bryant back quite a bit. But Ice Fang Quaddle can just come back down, trade with your Thing in the Ice, and then we're back to square one. And I have to think Bryant has to be pretty favored in this matchup.
I tend to agree. Quick addressing the chat. Twidelia, no, I do not need a ride tomorrow. Thank you very much for asking, though. Much appreciated. Anyway, we see Bryant lead with a Breeding Pool tapped. Here comes Thing in the Ice from Nathan. Astrolabe in hand, currently, for Bryant. Now, Thing in the Ice, definitely an important card in the matchup, but it is answered by Bryant's copies of Path to Exile. But Bryant does need to have them.
Yep, for sure.
If Bryant does not have ways to answer Thing in the Ice, it will be a problem at some point.
Snow-covered basic coming out here, which is getting us on the way towards maybe perhaps.
Yeah, I think Blood Moon's done.
Yep. Yep. He's getting us
no longer care about Blood Moon.
On the way towards also turning on, and plus that Astrolabe, turning on the Death Touch from the Ice Fang Quaddles, which also beats that Thing in the Ice.
Definitely.
Not beats, but I feel like when your opponent's invested casting 4 spells to flip their 2-mana 0/4 into a 7/8, you just get to cantrip and.
I think I'd quantify as beats. Yeah, I'd quantify that. getting to kill 7/8 with a 1/1 death touch, yeah, I'm into that. You can't even safely attack the first time if you just leave up 2 mana, because you can just recast it because it has flash.
Yeah, even if it's on the board already, pick it up, recast it, draw
like
another card.
Nathan's looking at a Force of Negation and a card I can't see under that, but it looks like he's gonna bottom and top the Force of Negation, I believe. So, deciding that he does value some instant speed interaction.
Yeah, I don't love that instant speed interaction is the problem. It looks like I think he might still be deciding.
Yeah, it looks like Opt and Force of Negation are the two cards.
I like Opt here because we have this thing in the ice, and I'm really not about this Force of Negation.
That makes sense to me. It definitely depends a little bit on the contents of his hand. I'm not really certain what else he's got. I can only really see the Flooded Strand at the front there. Looks like Bryant is sitting here with a Path to Exile pulled to the front of his hand, Eternal Witness as well. Looks like Nathan will top both. Play a land for turn. It's a fetch land, which means that Nathan's gonna be kind of unable to access his mana here, and now we see that scry is probably just going to be irrelevant, as I think Nathan's just going to have to go find a land as opposed to keep our scries intact here,
For certainly.
Just a little too much commitment here. We have a fetch land in play too. Like, let's calm down here.
And to top it all off, that Opt isn't really that great without the thing in the ice, and like I said, that Force of Negation already isn't great in the matchup.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't see a world where we're not fetching a land, and also as we see fetching with this fetch land now, to presumably save time, but also while we're shuffling.
Whatever.
Well. Yeah.
Not doing anything super relevant. Eladamri's Call in hand here for Bryant. Eternal Witness as well. Just a bunch of. I think that's a Watcher for tomorrow.
That's something I also forgot to mention is that Bant Soulherder just has cards like Eternal Witness in it that are really good 2-for-1s that actually press them as opposed to just like Coiling Oracles.
Definitely.
They can get back your really high impact spells like Ephemerate, and often go infinite. A lot of these versions of these deck are trying to do something like take infinite turns as a way to finally close out the game, and if we're playing Eladamri's Call, I find that a lot more likely.
Bryant is playing the Infinite Turns package, but I believe he only has a single copy of Time Warp in his deck.
Yeah.
So it's there, but you won't expect to see it very often, and especially on Nathan on Blue Moon, I'd expect him to have the interaction that I don't expect games to end with Infinite Turns particularly often.
Bryant skillfully casting his Wall of Blossoms and, like the master that he is, top decking that third land that he needed, hit his land drop.
Rips the third land like a champ.
Yep. Well done. Well done, Bryant. We knew you had it in you.
All right, let's see. Nathan will go ahead, play a tapped Steam Vents, ship the turn on back. He's got Cryptic Command up now, so we'll see if he wants to do anything, but it looks like end of turn, Bryant's just going to send it right on back, and this will likely ring some alarm bells from Nathan, but he's going to go ahead and try and cast his Divination at instant speed anyways, so we'll see what he wants to do. He could... I don't think he has really any relevant modes other than Divination.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks
you
like...
could steal that Astrolabe, but boy, does that not sound like...
You actually also can't do that.
Oh, is it only...
It's only creatures with CMC1, yeah. So here comes an Opt.
No, it's non-land permanent.
Is it?
I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, you're right. But that seems pretty bad.
Yeah, it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, it's got two lands in play anyway.
Right,
so
we'll give him that Archmage's Charm back on top of the deck.
Mystic Sanctuary doing the trick. Remand in hand. Looks like a couple of Cryptics as well. Send the turn on back. End of turn, we'll cast an Icefang Quaddle. At least we'll attempt to. Remand looks pretty good here, I think, if I'm Nathan.
Yeah.
Looks like Nathan agrees. That's basically Time Walk.
Saying all cantrip instead of you.
Yeah, Bryant...
has been missing on lands, makes this remand even better.
Yeah, Bryant could try to Force of Negation and fight over this remand, but that does not feel good.
I would agree, yeah. There is a merit to, it's not really that he wants his spell to resolve, just that the Icefang Quaddle gets his card back, and like you said, it is essentially Time Walk here, because the remand is free on cards for Nathan, and replaces itself, so it could be worth countering.
So here's Watcher for tomorrow. This is on the main phase of Bryant.
Yep.
Trying to do the common play here when you're playing against one of these, draw go decks. You want to play spells on end step, untap spells on main phase, and then next turn draw, go, spells on end step, spells on main phase. So you essentially get in this cycle where you're trying to overload their mana every turn, and that's usually your best plan if your deck has the ability to do that. But here we see Bryant attempt to do that, but Remand ultimately being 2 mana efficient, and Nathan just having a Cryptic Command able to shut down Watcher for tomorrow. And Nathan's probably pulling away here. He definitely feels like he's got a big advantage, but he doesn't actually have any way to progress his game plan. He's going to need to stick some type of permanent here to be able to get repeated value over and over again.
So this is interesting. A couple things just happened here. One of the reasons that Nathan is so ahead on mana was able to Remand and then cast a Cryptic Command, 6 whole mana. This relatively early in the game was because of that pass to exile. He's been hitting land drops every turn, and got pretty perfectly punished by that. But also, I'm a little surprised this Cryptic Command did not pick up this Mystic Sanctuary and allow that Cryptic Command loop to get going, but looks like with a Jace, Nathan's not going to struggle to find a way to work up this game.
Notably, Nathan has another one, so...
Oh, okay. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, that makes... that seems somewhat reasonable. So here we go. Nathan now... here we go. All right. Big spell fight. So, Nathan casts a Thing in the Ice on the start of his turn. At the end of turn, Bryant attempts to ephemerate his Wall of Blossoms, and Nathan goes for the Archmage's Charm counterspell. Bryant says, I've had enough of this. Force of Negation that. Draws a card. His Ephemerate resolves. Upkeep. He gets to ephemerate his Wall of Blossoms again. He now has Eternal Witness up, giving back Force of Negation to try and fight back on Nathan's turn here. So we'll see what Nathan wants to do. He has a Jace the Mind Sculptor on top of his deck, I believe. Indeed, there is the Jace and a Snapcaster Mage under it. So we'll see if Nathan's comfortable just jamming this Jace the Mind Sculptor into the known Force of Negation. Looks like he is. Presumably, this must mean that he
has a counterspell.
Some interaction.
To let Bryant 2-for-1 himself into a counterspell. It's interesting here. So we had this Eternal Witness.
Bryant says okay.
Have a choice. Interesting. There was a choice here with this Eternal Witness getting back Ephemerate, which I mentioned earlier, is a quote-unquote infinite loop. You get a different card back every other turn, at the cost of not really getting to attack with your Eternal Witness. But I think decided because he only had 3 mana, he wanted to be able to convert some of the cards in his hand into spells in the form of being able to actually cast that free spell because he's so constrained on mana, but then chose not to cast it against this Jace. Maybe his only blue spell was one that he really valued for some reason.
I believe he has 2 Force of Negations and a Soul Harder for the blue spells that I saw.
But he has 2 Force of Negations? I like getting the Force of Negation back even less now. But, we're well past that. I'm going to see what happens here.
Yeah, looks like Bryant's turn. I expect, we don't even really have good attacks at this Jace because this Thing in the Ice is just doing such a good job of brick walling all of Bryant's small dorky creatures. There's the Time Warp. Okay, Bryant now does have all of the pieces to theoretically try and assemble an infinite combo. He just needs Nathan to tap out.
And a lot of mana from this point. He needs that 5 mana.
And he needs to make... It's quite a few more land drops.
Because you need to cast the
6 mana
Time Warp and also ephemerate the Eternal Witness on that turn to get that Time Warp back.
Yep.
Untap, flick everything
again,
get
6
back
mana.
The ephemerate,
So, looks like Bryant's going to attempt to he's just going to end his turn. Go ahead and goes to clean up, discards a Thragtusk. A little bit of missequencing here, as Nathan will draw his card after Bryant discarded. Technically, you do need to do that before Bryant discards his card. But of course, playing some regular REL here, nothing too crazy. Here is Mystic Sanctuary. I expect to pick up a Cryptic Command. And now I think we ought to be done here. It's going to be really hard for Bryant to beat all of the advantages that Nathan has established. The Jace the Mind Sculptor is in play. Nathan untapped with it. We're going to start seeing brainstorms every turn, and the Cryptic Loop picking up this Mystic Sanctuary over and over again, because we did see Nathan put that back on top. So Force of Negation can kind of like chip away at that, so Nathan isn't going to just straight up win the game. But it's still going to be so hard for Bryant to just beat this Jace.
Yep. And that Thing of the Ice, what I said before, not super impressive in this matchup, because all of these creatures have ETB abilities, is really good when your opponent's stuck on 3 mana.
Yes, definitely. And discarding the hand size. It feels really good then.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so...
So, one of these things that you see in Modern is that these control decks need to do one of two things, and Blue Moon actually does both of them. They either need to pretty early lock their opponent out of the game, make it so that their opponent can't take any more relevant actions, because the things that are happening in Modern are so powerful, you have to be able to lock up the game quickly, or once you have controlled, you can't just... since there are so many haymakers in Modern, you can't just play a deck that's goal is just 2 for 1, 2 for 1, 2 for 1, 2 for 1, and eventually pull ahead. You need some kind of late game like he's setting up, where this loop of this Mystic Sanctuary plus this Cryptic Command can actually make it so the game is deterministically unwinnable for his opponent, which is... I'm not going to say we're quite there yet, but I think we're pretty darn close. Yeah. This Snapcaster Mage especially, that's going to get bounced by this Thing in the Ice, flashback
so we
this
saw...
Bolt, kill this Ewit. Or no,
we're just all going upstairs, because looks like Nathan's trying to get this game over with. He sent 6 damage at Bryant. He's going to flip his Awoken Horror and then return his Snapcaster Mage to his hand. So, kind of free-rolling that Snapcaster Mage Lightning Bolt there. Looks like the trigger's on the stack here, and Bryant's going to cast Eladamri's Call. So we'll see if Nathan has anything to say about that. I'd be kind of surprised if that's enough to get Nathan to pull the trigger here. The Eladamri's Call, unless you're worried about some weird random main deck, Thrun or whatever, you could probably just let that one go through.
I'm honestly pretty comfortable thinking that if Bryant managed to not only find a Thrun, but then draw the land to play it and put it into play, I think we could still say Nathan was winning this game. This Thing in the Ice is going to attack pretty cleanly.
It's a 7/8
through that.
Huge.
Yep.
Yeah, and Bryant would just probably have to chump it on his next turn, right? Because he wouldn't have enough mana to do anything else, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so looks like Bryant just found a measly old Coiling Oracle, which, I think I agree with, given the situation we're in. We're going to need to deploy. We're going to need to try and make a couple of land drops here on the next turn. Looks like Force of Negation is getting thrown at Lightning Bolt, and that... will resolve. Nathan not going to pick a fight over that. And then Nathan presumably will go ahead, slam Bryant for 7 down to...
Quite notably, that
5.
Lightning Bolt was lethal. If it had it resolved, it would have put Bryant down to 9. And then the 7 would have hit Bryant to 2. And then that Snapcaster Mage that had gotten picked up by that Thing in the Ice would have come back down, flashback that Lightning Bolt. But...
the Lightning Bolt was already being flashback.
Oh, are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was a main phase cast, a regular one.
It was main phase Lightning Bolt, Snap Lightning Bolt.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe not quite lethal, but still would have pretty cleanly closed the door on this game.
Yeah.
Put his opponent to 2 life.
Yep. Not a huge issue though. I mean, Nathan. He still is going to be able to put Bryant into chump block mode here, and even worse if he has any type of interaction. So we'll see what Bryant wants to do. I expect him to start the turn with a nice little Coiling Oracle here, but it looks like he might have just passed the turn back, which is rough. I don't love that one here from Bryant. I think you needed to try and play spells and get on the board, because now we have to fight over these dumb creatures because we're just dead, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem like how we want to fight. At least, we can try and play creature, Coiling Oracle, spike a land, play another creature, and then have a blocker even through Jace or whatever.
I think his plan is he has that Ice Fang Coatl that we saw earlier, and then that Force of Negation. So I think he was hoping to protect that Ice Fang Coatl with the Force of Negation, and then get a chance to block the 7/8. But as we saw there, some removal spells from
whatever. Yeah, Nathan just too far ahead there. Bryant stumbled on mana for far too long. And with that, we will go to game number 2. Let's take a look at Bryant's sideboard. Bryant has 2 Veil of Summer, 1 Stonehorde Dignitary, 1 Path to Exile, 1 Scavenging Ooze, 2 Phyrexian Revoker, 2 Weather the Storm, 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 1 Collector Oof, and 1 Eidolon of Rhetoric. What sounds good to you?
See, 2 Veil of Summer, very good against this Cryptic Command loop that we were talking about.
Excellent, yes.
Unfortunately, it doesn't actually stop the cryptic command loop in that the cryptic command that is countering your spell will still resolve and return your permanent to its hand, but it does stop for a turn, let your spell resolve, and draw you a card, all for the
low price of green.
1 mana. Yeah. Scavenging Ooze, on the other hand, does help interact with that and start exiling cards that are going to be flashed back by Snapcaster Mage or put back on top with Mystic Sanctuary, getting those out of the graveyard. So I like both of those. I think you could make an argument for this Eidolon of Rhetoric to stop Snapcaster Mage and Thing of the Ice shenanigans, but I don't think it's a good one. And I think you should be playing
pretty bad to me.
2 Veil, Summer 1 Scavenging Ooze. Like I said, your main deck is pretty well set up.
If you hit land drops, start to really overpower your opponent with value.
I'm much more interested in Phyrexian Revoker than any of those things. Phyrexian Revoker can like shut off Jace, or you can maybe name Flooded Strand or whatever.
Yeah, actually, I think that Phyrexian Revoker is non-land.
Oh yeah, you're right. But you could shut off Jace.
Yeah, and for those who don't have the card, Eidolon of Rhetoric is the 1/4 from Theros. That's an enchantment creature. I actually think it's from Journey into Nyx. That says
it's from that block for sure.
Yeah, players can't cast more than 1 spell.
Yeah, it's rule of law.
Yeah, rule of law on a creature.
Meanwhile, Nathan has 2 Young Pyromancer, 2 Abrade, 2 Magmatic Sinkhole, 2 Anger of the Gods, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Surgical Extraction, 1 Disdainful Stroke, 1 Dispel, and 1 Mystical Dispute. What do you got over here?
I actually like these Young Pyromancers quite a lot. Our opponent is putting a lot of X1s into play. And I think the potential to turn all of our Lightning Bolts into extra 1/1s that can interact by trading with Coiling Oracles,
yes,
attacking our opponent's life total, trading with, there was Eternal Witness.
There's a million of them.
Yeah, there's so many. All of them have 1 toughness. I also like the Abrades, potentially that Magmatic Sinkhole to kill any Soul Hoarders that get out of hand. But that was pretty much it. I like those burn spells to kill those small creatures.
Try and execute the plan similarly to game number 1 here. We're going to need to get to a reasonable state on the board, try and resolve a Jace, and then try and win the game with it. Yep. That's basically Nathan's plan here, and it doesn't seem easy because there's a million 1/1s.
And Force of Negation to back them all up.
Yeah, Young Pyromancer, definitely a reasonable part of that plan. So, anyways, we'll see both players taking a look at their opening 7s.
Hopefully they can keep them and have a nice grindy game of Magic where we have a little less.
Looks like Brian's thinking about the mulligan, but it looks like he'll keep it. Nathan, on the other hand, will not. So
I did want to note about Force of Negation in the Soul Hoarder deck. It uses it in a really interesting way because the game and perhaps we're going to game 3. Looks like 3 Merit Lage tokens were going to play by our friend Bryant there.
Sick.
But, that might have been in jest.
Might.
I don't think he has what is it called? The 2-mana enchantment for Modern Horizons that makes the Merit Lage token.
Merit
Lage is
I would
Slumber.
just say Manamond.
Manamond
does it way better.
Merit Lage is Slumber. It's a modern legal card. He has cards in his deck.
True.
Could easily been what was happening there, but not quite. But this Force of Negation, all of these blue cards are also like Ice Fang Coatls and Coiling Oracles. These 1/1s at cantrip are also blue cards to pitch to Force of Negation and also replace themselves, making the fact that you get put down a card by this Force of Negation less punishing, and kind of letting it just be a free counterspell when you're using your mana to keep drawing cards and turning through your deck, and disrupting your opponent. It's a little similar to I'm probably the only one who remembers this deck because I was recently watching some cool plays thing from a legacy video from 5 years ago.
Oh dear God.
That deck that used Sky Hussar and all of the 1/1s for 1 that were blue to draw a bunch of cards and fuel their Force of Wills and Dazes.
I have very vague recollection of this.
Yeah.
But
and then it also tried to play a bunch of cheap spells, including Force of Willing and dazing its own spells, and then playing a very large Flusterstorm and exiling all the copies to a Niv Magus Elemental to finish their opponent off, which is now, thanks to Force of Negation, something you can do in Modern. Keep an eye out.
Yikes. All right. Well, that was fun.
We have Astrolabe fulfilling its purpose that it got banned in Pauper 4 and fixing the mana of Forest Plains Coiling Oracle. Classic start.
Yeah, unfortunately no hit on the Coiling Oracle. Just the 2 lands in play still. Bryant draws another. Oh no, did he miss on his lands again?
Disaster.
I think he must have. That's unfortunate. I think he's going to ephemerate his Coiling Oracle here on his main phase. Oh, he has one. I think he's going to cast it here. Oh, but looks like he lets Nathan go.
See, this is...
Oh, what's going on here? You getting aggressive with this Snapcaster Mage?
So I was going to say that this is
one.
a good time to cast that Ephemerate because you don't want your creature bolted in response. But then Nathan tapped out. That is when I would have snapped that Ephemerate off. We really need to hit land drops.
Yeah. And also, what's up with this Ambush Viper?
Yeah.
On here. Do you like this play at all? I'm a little confused as to why we're Ambush Vipering. This does not seem like the matchup for an Ambush Viper. I mean, we talked about how many X1s there are.
Yeah, there's a 1/1 in play for our opponent. Ambush Viper looks really bad against that 1/1 that cantrip.
Yeah, so here I think we saw End Step, Ephemerate, Nathan snaps off a Dispel to counter it. And, well, now Bryant, pretty sad he didn't get it through while Nathan was tapped out.
Yep.
Yeah. Here's an attack for 1. Followed by Watcher for tomorrow. Looks like Nathan will fetch in response to that. Likely seeing a Remand here, given the nature of this Blue Moon deck. Remand, one of the most powerful pieces of the deck. Very integral to the deck's plan.
Yeah, and like we were talking about earlier, when you're this control deck that's looking to either flip a thing in the ice and turn the corner quickly, land a Blood Rune so your opponent can't really play spells, or set up this new Mystic Sanctuary loop, being able to time walk your opponent, essentially, right? He was stuck on 2 lands. He played a card that cantripped him. That card got returned to his hand. Nathan drew a card and just gets to untap. It's so crucial getting another land drop towards the 3 other islands required for Mystic Sanctuary and the 4 mana required for Cryptic Command. And now this game just looks over if Nathan has a Cryptic Command.
Yeah, it looks really hard for Nathan to win. And I don't know. I mean, I guess if your opponent's just stuck on lands and just completely doing nothing, then I guess Ambush Viper looks okay.
Yep.
You know, I guess we are pressuring our opponent. If he just continues to miss forever,
the spell's remanded.
You know, he will probably die.
What is that? Is that a dismount?
That was Watcher for tomorrow attacking. That is
no. It's being played.
Being played. I see.
What was that? Oh, a mystical dispute.
Ooh, yikes.
Very solid.
Here is Vendilion Click. It'll target Bryant's hand. Look at all of these spells I cannot cast.
Path to Exile. Is that a Veil of Summer? Force of Negation? Lots of cheap interaction.
Yeah, it's Path, Ewit, Soul Herder, Force of Negation, and Veil of Summer, I believe. Yeah, yep. Get that Veil of Summer out of here. I tend to agree. Oh, maybe. I don't know. I'm tempted to just say keep it. Also,
yeah, this path is pretty good.
Looks like he will take the Veil.
Yeah, getting that out of there, it's essentially a 2-for-1 for 1 mana that also draws him closer, deeper into his deck.
Definitely a problem for Nathan's deck. I think I'm more than happy to leave my opponent with these path. It feels
that was end step. That's even
pretty
more
good.
Brutal.
Yeah, it feels pretty reasonable. So expect to see just a nice little block here from Bryant. He will. Bryant will take 3 from the Vendilion Click, though, down to 12, and Nathan's got his plan now. Although I do believe Nathan missed his land drop this turn as well, deciding to leave up Opt, Snapcaster Mage, and Archmage's Charm, the spells in his hand.
Bryant top decking a land.
Nice.
Hopefully letting him deploy some of those 3-drops.
Yeah, I believe he also drew a land from that Vendilion Click, so hopefully we'll see Bryant be able to deploy spells for the rest of the game. Prairie Stream enters the battlefield untapped, of course.
I think you mean Tundra.
Yeah. My bad.
Seeing those 2 other basics entering the battlefield untapped for no cost of life.
Yeah, we'll see what Bryant wants to do here. Of course, if he does want to commit 1 mana to Path to Exile, he'll basically be on the same 2 mana he's been on. Yeah. There is the Path to Exile. We'll see if Nathan allows this to resolve. He is missing lands, but he also probably wants to try and fight and win the game with this Vendilion Click. That seems like his best plan.
Yeah, it's a 4-turn clock. All you need is 4 counter spells, right?
Yeah, and here comes Snapcaster Mage. Bryant, of course, cannot cast his Force of Negation. Doesn't have the mana. It is his turn. So, Snapcaster Mage Dispel will shut down that Path to Exile. And it looks like Nathan has decided that his plan is attacking. And I think I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Snapcaster Mage so good with those 1 mana high impact counter target spells. That Mystical Dispute, a lot of options there.
Super good.
Looking really good.
Jace the Mind Sculptor on top, I believe. Oh no, it was Spell Snare. Excuse me. Oh no. Bryant with another Path to Exile, but he let Nathan untap, and now it's going to get countered. But here is the Force of Negation
that
because
might be why
it
you
is
let him
Nathan's
untap.
turn.
That might be why you let him untap.
Yeah.
So that he could have that free counterspell up. I'm not sure if I love that. Because it forces you to spend this force
you're still 2-for-1ing yourself, but it doesn't feel nearly as bad when you've missed on all your lands. You have a lot of cards in your hand, but
we're approaching discarding to hand size.
Bryant needed that Path to Exile to go through, so that's why we saw both copies ending up having to get cast. And now the Snapcaster Mage Beats plan probably not going to get there in and of itself.
Yeah, so especially with a bunch of X1s from Bryant coming down.
Yeah. So here is Eternal Witness. Eternal Witness.
Targeting.
I believe it is on the stack. Looks like Nathan going to cast Opt in response. He'll leave that on top. Eternal Witness will resolve. It'll return Path to Exile, and Bryant will Path to Exile Snapcaster Mage.
I'll be honest, I don't love that.
Yeah, me neither. I'm not about that one, I don't think. I think we're just a little too worried about that Snapcaster Mage. I mean, we can just block it, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're at 10.
So take it for a couple turns.
Yeah. He could have grabbed an Ephemerate there, and I like that way more. Ephemerate gets back, you get Ephemerate, and then just cast it again, whatever. But then you could get a Path to Exile, and then, end up taking 2 damage to effectively have a rebounding Ephemerate.
Yeah.
And that's something that Nathan will have to deal with.
And your opponent has to bolt that Eternal Witness, or you're rebounding it and getting another card back.
For sure.
For no mana investment.
For 0, yeah. Seems pretty hard to beat. Nathan here, he has a Snapcaster Mage, a Lightning Bolt, and a Spell Snare, I believe. So we'll see what Nathan decides to do with these. Notably, Bryant's life total looks a little more precarious now.
Snap Bolt.
Yeah. Heliodamri's Call.
Is Heliodamri's Call his last card in hand?
It is. Yeah, so we'll see. Here's an attack for 2.
All those cheap spells, Bryant went from 6 cards to 1
to 0,
real fast.
Yeah, basically. Looks like Nathan will take the damage. He did have the option here to, looks like end step, he will Lightning Bolt Soul Herder. Or this is presumably before end step.
Yeah.
And then we'll see if Nathan elects to do anything else on end step. I expect to see the Snapcaster Mage come down. The real question is, what is Nathan going to do with it? I think I like Archmage's Charm to draw 2 here. I think that's my favorite, but it looks like Nathan might be getting aggressive. Lightning Bolt that Soul Herder, or Lightning Bolt that Eternal Witness, get that thing out of the way, and continue on playing beats. Ooh, Brazen Borrower. Nathan's deck agrees with him. He wants to beat down.
Oh, yeah.
This is reminding me a lot of another deck that I've been really wanting to try in Modern, but
With the announcement of Pioneer and all this standard testing for this Mythic Championship, I haven't really been playing much Modern. But the Kiki combo the
Brineborn
Cutthroat and getting to really beat down, like, this has just shown me.
Our friend Cade tried that one out, and let me tell you, that's a swing and a miss on that deck.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I've seen some pretty good results from some people online, but it's entirely possible that it's not very good. But this blue-red beatdown plan from Nathan is convincing me at least a little bit.
Yeah, blue-red flash beats can get there,
Yeah.
and in fact does get there. So we see Nathan take down Bryant in a quick 2 games in what we thought was going to be a pretty bad matchup. So well done, Nathan, navigating that reasonably well, I think. He got in the points of damage when needed. We kind of mocked him a little bit for that turn 2 Ambush Viper, but he killed his opponent with it. Yeah, he killed his opponent with it. So looks like that will be our last round for the night as well.
Something interesting to note, too, about Magic, and Modern especially, is that no matter how bad a matchup might look on paper, even if a matchup is 70-30, 80-20, there's still that 20 or 30% of the time where your opponent's deck doesn't really function, they miss on lands, and you just kind of curve out and have it all, as we saw Nathan do there.
Yeah,
not to announce his skill, I think he navigated that game incredibly well, keeping Bryant's board clear and really punishing him for being stuck on lands, not giving him any time to recover.
Yeah, boy did Bryant really missed on his lands in both of those games, and that was more or less the story of the games. And it sucks when that happens, but it is a percentage of the games, and it's Magic. Magic's Magic. We all love it, but it comes with some downsides, and missing on lands for a few turns is definitely one of them sometimes.
Sure.
But with that, looks like our producer's trying to get Nathan to crack this foil pack on camera for us. You like these foil packs? Noble, you like this WPN or a nice play change with all these promo packs that have been going around?
I like it. They're very cool. I'll admit I'm having a little trouble remembering which alternate card, cool style foils are in which packs and with which stamps.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I do really like that it gives a way for, not specifically the foil packs, but these cards that used to be available only in foil being available in non-foil. And funnily enough, like seeing stuff like Kenrith, being available in non-foil, so you don't have to deal with the admittedly heinous buy a box promo foiling. All right, so this pack is getting cracked on camera.
Ooh, arena code.
All right, that's a good start.
That's a free pack on arena.
What do we think we're gonna pack one, pick one?
Hello, Hallowed Fountain, Glass Casket, and Wandermare. If I'm correct. That's a nice Hallowed Fountain, though. I'm into that.
No, that's a Wander. That's the Wickerbow. No, what? Not Wickerbow Elder. It's something Elder. It's the white.
Oh, Fabro Elder.
Fabro Elder.
Fabro Elder. Excellent.
Something
Looks like Nathan doesn't want it, so Brant goes ahead and nags that one.
Yep. He of course quickly took the foil Hallowed Fountain. Pretty good value there.
Foil Hallowed Fountain is nice.
Very nice. Yeah.
So anyway, I would love to thank the second stream for the night. Thank you to Advancify for sponsoring the stream. Advancify is the best in Bellingham for IT web design and data recovery. If you need anything IT related, any tech help whatsoever, website design, that type of thing, go ahead and hit up Advancify. Let them know that we sent you. It helps us, it helps them, helps everybody involved. So thank you so much to Advancify for letting us be here tonight and bring you this awesome coverage. And with that, we're going to leave you with some Hot Damn Scandal. We will be back on Friday with some standard coverage. I will be back on Monday, as I'll be in Richmond. So hopefully whoever takes over for me doesn't burn the place down while I'm gone.
And perhaps give some updates about our performance at the MC. Well, you're trying to go in there in an attempt to qualify, which you will hopefully certainly do.
I will.
Certainly
I'm not worried about it or anything. There's a GP there, at the very least. So regardless, I will see you guys on Monday. Thanks so much for tuning in. And with that, we'll leave you with some Hot Damn Scandal.
The bottom fell out of the clouds today, and the rain came down like a mirror. One big sheet and it shattered on the ground. Now it's 7 years of bad luck all over this town. It's collection time on all of your debts, and you can't get by just talking. Your smile don't work, and your car don't start, and your doors ain't keeping you alone. No, not even if you lock them. No, not even if you lock them. When you're tapped into that bit of fame, just about anything feels good.